The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Hello, everyone. This is Helen Dion. I am Marketing Manager at SWK Technologies. I'd like to welcome you to our Acumatica Lunch and Learn. A little housekeeping before we get started. Everyone has been placed on mute to keep the background noise down. However, you can submit any questions you have throughout the presentation. If you want to submit a question, look for the Questions tab in your GoToWebinar window. We will be answering questions throughout the webinar. Also, we are recording the presentation and it will be distributed tomorrow to all attendees as well as anyone who registered but was unable to attend. So with that said, I hope you are all enjoying your Grubhub lunches or brunches depending on your time zone. And we appreciate you taking time out of your busy day to attend our Lunch and Learn. Some of you know a little bit about Acumatica already, and some of you are here to start your discovery. In any case, we're here to help you get a better understanding of this cloud ERP and get to know SWK Technologies better as well. So please don't hesitate to ask any questions you have. We do have a subject matter expert with us today, Jeremy Patoka. So with that said, I'm going to hand it over to you, Jeremy.
Great, thank you, Helen. Well, welcome everybody to our Lunch and Learn today. Really excited to do an overview of who Acumatica is and what they're all about, as well as jump into the product over the next hour. So hope that this winds up being a really valuable learning experience for everybody. So our agenda for today is to just tell you a little bit about who SWK Technologies is. From there, I'm going to do an overview of who Acumatica is and what they're all about. And then, like I said, we're going to dive right into the product, into the latest version of 2020 R1. Helen and I will save a few minutes at the end for some Q&A, but if you have questions throughout, because this is a smaller group and intended to be a smaller group, I'd be happy to answer questions throughout, and I'll stop kind of in between transition periods just to see if there are any questions, so you don't have to wait until the end if you don't want to. SWK Technologies is actually traded under our parent company, Silversun Technologies, and Silversun is traded publicly on the NASDAQ, and we have multiple divisions as a value-added reseller. Within our ERP side of the business under SWK, that's where I am and the Acumatica practices, but we have several other divisions. Secure Cloud Services is our application hosting company, and we host a lot of legacy customers on there, as well as folks that decide to do private cloud subscriptions within Acumatica. We can host those there. And then we have a cybersecurity division. SWK Technologies is based in North Jersey. Our headquarters is in East Hanover, and we've got offices from coast to coast. These are just some of the office sites down here: Chicago, North Carolina, California, New York, Texas, Arizona, Washington, and Oregon. And we have about half of our employees that work out of remote offices too. So we really have the country covered. Right around 200 professionals, and we have over 6,000 customers across all ERP products. I just wanted to give a quick recap of the Acumatica Summit. Acumatica has an annual summit every year, and the summit this past year was in late January, early February. It's always kind of right there at the end of January and beginning of February. And it was a great event. It was the largest event. This event keeps getting bigger every year. Here you can see a nice grouping of the audience. And this is their annual time to get together the entire partner and customer ecosystem. So everyone comes together. You can see that there are some keynotes and some interviews that happened with key stakeholders and customers. Obviously, some good parties that were had in Las Vegas, as well as the ISV ecosystem presenting their solutions that are connected to Acumatica inside of the exhibit hall. One of the highlights for us was actually receiving the Partner of the Year award. Acumatica has about 300 partners that sell and implement Acumatica globally. And it's really an honor that for the past 2 years, SWK Technologies has been named the Partner of the Year. What Acumatica is all about is digital transformation. The term that we use still today is ERP, and that is kind of an outdated term. What Acumatica is it's a technology platform that allows you to digitally transform your business. It's more than an accounting system or an inventory management system. It's truly a platform that is going to take your business from legacy technology into a more modern technology platform and allow you to operate in this digital environment. The best path for transforming your business to thrive in the new digital economy is upgrading to a new digital platform to manage your business. And that's really what Acumatica is. You're going to hear me use that platform word a lot today. Because it's really what Acumatica does very well. When you ask Acumatica what kind of company they are, they'll say they're a technology company. They're very technology forward and technology first. That's why even at the summit and different events that are hosted throughout the year, they're always highlighting the latest and greatest technology. Acumatica is sold and implemented through a channel of resellers, as I mentioned. There's about 300 of them globally. SWK is one of them. And it's a really nice partnership because Acumatica gets to focus on the product and on the technology. And then we, as the implementer and reseller, get to find customers who are a good fit. And then we get to implement and support them after going live. So in that sense, it's a really good partnership and a great go-to-market strategy for Acumatica. Acumatica has several core suites or additions within their SaaS ERP offering. At the very core is the general ledger and financial management. Acumatica has a very strong project accounting solution. Some of you might remember back in the day Solomon software, and if you remember that, it was likely for a project environment. It did that very well. People are still using it today, even though it's a legacy product. And one of the founders of Acumatica came from Solomon software. And that's where we really get our roots and deep longevity and experience in ERP, but latest and greatest technology. Acumatica has a very strong distribution suite or distribution edition to manage inventory. Acumatica CRM is totally integrated. Some systems of the past, they had a CRM, but it really didn't talk to the accounting side or the inventory side. It's just another suite or module, as you'll see in the demo a little bit later. And then as of the latest release, Acumatica did release their native payroll module. So we have multiple ways to manage HCM and payroll in Acumatica. Some of them are using the out-of-the-box functionality and this new module that's available for the DIY payroll folks. But then we certainly integrate with a number of HCM and payroll providers that do that as a service. So some of the industry editions, and the industry editions basically bundle up all the relevant modules and suites and functionality that a certain industry would need based on both Acumatica and our experience working with similar businesses. One of them was the Field Service Edition. This is for folks that sell, install, repair, manage equipment, need to route and dispatch field workers using the Acumatica mobile app. Another one is the Commerce Edition, and the Acumatica Commerce Edition now ships with a out-of-the-box publisher-supported integration to BigCommerce. And BigCommerce is one of the top 3 platforms used inside of for folks that are moving to an e-commerce system today. The other 2 that are supported by other connectors in Acumatica are Magento and Shopify. So again, the main 3 platforms Acumatica is already integrated with. Acumatica also has a construction edition. So we're seeing a lot of folks that were on products like Timberline or other, Sage 300 CRE is another one that comes to mind, that are on more of a legacy software platform looking for new technology. And historically, they've stayed on these legacy products because some of the newer systems just weren't able to offer them the same robust construction features that they needed. And that's where Acumatica has really done a great job defining and developing this construction edition, and it's one of our specialties at SWK as well. The distribution is for folks that are doing sales orders, purchase orders, managing inventory, and obviously having that integrated all the way through accounting. And the last edition that we'd like to highlight today, and I'll mention a little bit about later, is our manufacturing edition. The manufacturing edition of Acumatica is for discrete or batch process manufacturers, and it includes a number of core modules like bill of material production and MRP, but it has a robust offering of additional added modules that our customers can enable. Some that come to mind are the product configurator, engineering change control, estimating, advanced planning and scheduling. These are all additional modules based, really on the type of manufacturer that's going to use the system that they may need or not need. And I'm going to talk about the ISVs later, but I really don't want to leave any of the ISVs out. ISVs are independent software vendors. These are folks with their own apps, either within Acumatica or integrated, connected applications to Acumatica. And these additions plug into a variety of those. On the field service side, there's a number of integrations. On the construction side, there's a Procore integration, which is really important for construction companies. On the manufacturing end, we have CAD integrations for those that are actually doing the engineering designs in CAD systems and importing those bills of material into Acumatica automatically. And even things like the commerce and distribution edition, we have a number of shipping providers and integrations that are available to be able to support grabbing rates and getting labels and tracking information that is in an integrated fashion. I keep mentioning the technology of Acumatica, and Acumatica invests something to the tune of 60 to 70% of their revenues right back into the product. I heard at one point, and this surprised me, it's a stat that's really stuck with me, that about every 2.5 years, the Acumatica code base doubles. And they've done that in a very stable way, just providing more functionality and more technology. And they're able to do that unlike any other mid-market ERP solution because of the framework. So if we look at Acumatica from a technology stack, at its core, it is Microsoft technologies. So either SQL or MySQL is the database server, and IIS is the application server. And if you go with the cloud option, you've got either AWS, which is your best of breed hosting within the SaaS, or other cloud environments you can deploy this in, like Azure. And it's common development tools and languages that are used if you decide to do integrations or customizations within Acumatica, which is, again, something that it was made for. So that happens in C# and .NET. This gets technology people really excited. If you're not one of them, then you're going to get more excited about some of the things up top. But it's really important to have that strong platform. There's nothing like buying a new system and then having to learn a whole new language or a whole new technology stack that is very proprietary to that system. Acumatica's technology strategy was to pick common tools that already exist that people already know. The platform provides additional functionality before we get into kind of the business layer. So things like document management, file attachment, user security, having user-based access and roles, multi-tenancy capabilities, having a direct mobile framework, so we can access everything from a browser just like we can from a mobile device, workflows, customizations, any browser support, analytics and business intelligence. This all again, ships with just the base product. It's there. Our customers leverage it however they want to, because at the end of the day, every business is a little unique. No two distributors are alike. No two field service organizations are alike. So we want to give them the tools within the platform to be able to leverage for their business, and not force them into a model that we or Acumatica thinks might work. At the top are the industry additions that we talked about. So here are all the modules that are well integrated, tightly integrated. So CRM, project accounting, warehouse management, some of those commerce integrations, all those modules that we've already discussed. And this is where your users are interacting with the user interface. And this is what you're going to see a demonstration of today, supported by the underlying strong technology platform. Acumatica, as I mentioned, has those connected cross-module workflows. As you consider looking at Acumatica and get more engaged with our team to be able to see more specific workflows to your business, even with some of your own data, and we really try to demonstrate the connected cross-module workflows. It's not uncommon that we talk to either an existing customer on a legacy product or somebody that's new to the SWK family, and they've got 3 different silos of data today. They've got a CRM, they've got accounting, and maybe they've got something else, right? They've got another quoting system, they have another system managing their engineering or their manufacturing, and none of these systems talk to one another. So what we really try to get to with every single Acumatica install is connected cross-module workflows. The CRM integrates with manufacturing. So when I want to light off a configuration, I can do that from CRM. I can create project quotes from CRM, and that will integrate with the project accounting module as we win that business and try to flip that into a project. So all of these modules talk to one another. It's really something that Acumatica has focused on specifically in the past 3 to 4 years, just getting these to connect and talk to one another.
Jeremy, we do have one question that's come in.
Great.
The question is, would we have access to the database for underlying data via ODBC/JDBC or just via API?
So if you're in the Acumatica SaaS model within Amazon Web Services, that would be I believe you can still do ODBC read-only access, but most people just rely on the APIs. If you want direct access to SQL, then you would just look to do a private cloud environment. And that could be in the SWK cloud, which is still managed and supported by us, so you don't need to do that. But then you would actually get access to the server and SQL Direct if you needed it. Great question. Acumatica has won a number of awards and is ranked very well by the neutral organizations, the vendor neutral organizations. So these are a couple of different matrices that are out there floating around the web that you guys could find. One of them is put out by Nucleus Research, and they've created what's called the Value Matrix. I have the 2018 version as well, and Acumatica was actually for the last 2 years nominated by Nucleus Research to be the most usable ERP system in the mid-market space. So what you're seeing here is that they are at the top of the greater usability. And the reason why is customers find it very easy to adopt Acumatica. It's user-friendly, you're working in a browser, there's no terminal server to log into, and it just has a very user-friendly way to navigate around the system and multiple paths based on how that user wants to get their work done. Over here on the right, you're seeing another resource provided by Infotech, and they do what's called this emotional footprint. And what this really boils down to is how would would an existing Acumatica customer recommend Acumatica to a family member's business or a friend's business? And that's how this is really put together to get a net emotional footprint. And you can see that Acumatica ranks extremely high in that area as well, pretty far above most of the other mid-market providers that are out there. Acumatica's received a number of other accolades from companies like the Cody Awards. This is kind of like the Oscars or the Academy Awards in the ERP space. It's PC Magazine's ERP Editor's Choice. And then when these are systems that you guys can look at like G2 Crowd and Gartner and see what they're saying about Acumatica, but they've ranked Acumatica highest in customer satisfaction and usability again. And I hope that comes out when we actually look at the product demonstration today. You'll see how easy it is to navigate around and just how easy it would be to use the system. Acumatica's latest customer announcement was at the summit in Las Vegas, and they announced that they now have 6,500 customers worldwide. This is a really important stat for all of us that are either considering Acumatica, implementing it like SWK, and certainly Acumatica themselves. And the reason why is if you think about the typical customer size that's using Acumatica, these are folks between, I'd say generally 10 million in revenue to 150 million in revenue. That's where most of them lie. Sure, we've got some that are on both sides of that, even pretty far, which speaks to the scalability of the product. But there are only so many businesses that are shopping around for an ERP system year in and year out. And Acumatica has been able to gain a pretty fast market share year over year in that space. Acumatica has a really, really strong commitment to customer success. They watch all of the review sites. They've got an open product management site where you can vote on new features, and they are very responsive on that. And they keep tabs on their existing customers. Part of the way that they do that is having a vigorous validation and certification process for implementers. So basically, you can't just say, hey, I've implemented X product for 20 years. I want to do Acumatica. It's a very selective process to be able to sell and implement Acumatica because they really prioritize customer success. So their net promoter score is 33. The Acumatica support satisfaction is around 97%, and all customers have the option of getting direct support after going live from their VAR as well as Acumatica. Acumatica offers some additional premier features like Premier support, which is 24/7, 365. It's nice to layer that with and complement your VAR specific support. And they are and have been for the past several years the fastest growing cloud ERP company. So when a cloud ERP company takes their product to market, they have a couple of options on how they deploy it. They can either try to get into the hosting business and create their own cloud, or they can just partner with the folks that do that the best. So Acumatica made a very strategic decision years ago to partner with Amazon AWS for their hosting environment. So when you buy the Acumatica SaaS option, which is about where 90% of our customers go these days, it's a subscription that includes hosting. So you're within a day of purchasing, you're actually given a URL and your environment. There's nothing for you to upgrade there. Acumatica handles upgrades. Certainly you need to participate in some upgrade testing, especially on any custom reports with integrations that we've done or you've done. Backup, disaster recovery, all the benefits of being in a high-performing SaaS environment is what AWS provides, okay? The trailing uptime percentage over the last 6 months is something like 99.49s, right? So from an uptime percentage, very stable, high availability, high throughput. And Acumatica is also one of the first products on Microsoft Azure, and it supports 365 and Power BI integration. So one of the things that you're going to see as we go through our demo today, and even as you consider looking at Acumatica, is just the really tight integration with the Microsoft technology under the hood. Things like exporting to Excel, integrating with Power BI, Office 365, Outlook. The list goes on. it really does. There's nothing to set up. Acumatica just works with all of these tools out of the box. Just from a scalability standpoint, one of the metrics that's tracked is ERP transactions a month, and Acumatica currently processes 180 million ERP transactions a month. That's a huge amount of data that's being processed through Acumatica in their SaaS environment. So part of the architecture of Acumatica allows it to be open and allow for other systems to easily integrate and integrate rapidly. So Acumatica is all about this connected cloud environment. So what we mean is not just having an all-in-one application with integrated modules. It's great to get out of 3 databases and into one for your business management process. But from there, there's still always going to be additional tools that we can leverage, like DocuSign, right? Acumatica is not going to release and try to get market share in the e-signature and signature space. So what they do is we offer to integrate with these systems. And some of these are already, actually all the ones we're looking at today are turnkey. These all either ship with the product or are additional options that you can add within the product. So being able to connect to the e-commerce and on the BigCommerce and Magento side is very powerful and available really with the product via connector, either Acumatica supported or other. Avalara for sales tax management. That's a preference screen that we just go and plug in the Avalara information. Power BI I mentioned, Salesforce. About 40% of the Acumatica customer base uses the Acumatica CRM, and then 40% already had implemented Salesforce before coming to Acumatica and wanted to continue using that. And for a lot of folks, that is the right fit for a CRM environment. So what Acumatica did was they decided to just build an integration with Salesforce so that we could have a bidirectional sync with Salesforce to Acumatica. For us to be able to deploy an integration, it can happen so many different ways depending on what type of technology you're working with. It can be an API integration. It could be a flat file if the other system isn't allowing us to get access to the data via APIs. It could be more of a flat file pickup and import and export. And then we also have some iPaaS solutions, which are these cloud integrations that kind of sit between us and another system. So because of the technology, because of the open architecture, the customer is able to really make the decision on what they want to integrate with and how they would like to integrate with it. We're not going to dictate that, nor is Acumatica.
We have another question that's come in.
Mm-hmm.
I have a client with unstable internet access due to the area they are located in. Since Acumatica is a cloud ERP, if internet goes down, is there any way the client can continue to work?
So in that type of environment, we would look to use, you could technically deploy it on premise. So there is no work offline because it does work off of a browser. So you would, if you were on premise, they could still access Acumatica via your local network if it was hosted there. I will say it doesn't require much bandwidth to use. There's some customers in remote parts of Africa that have basically a dial-up or a DSL connection, and they're able to use Acumatica. So it's very light on the browser, but I do understand the use case of not really having a dependable internet. In that type of situation, we deploy on-prem, and they would access the local host through the browser. So still working in a browser, but just doing that without pinging the outside world. And you could open it up to an external IP in order to get there if you wanted to when there is internet connection. So when security is a really big topic these days. Acumatica has enterprise-grade security features such as server-side logic, a lot of different type of access controls, multiple authentication methods. When we talk about the server level security, Acumatica has all of the different, and we can share if anyone's interested in a specific type of security. We like requesting the SOC 1 or 2 from Acumatica to get more details on that. That's available by request. And we can also provide, because of the infrastructure, being able to host it in your own environment. When we've run into very niche specific compliance rules like HIPAA, or I'm thinking there's some very specific things for folks that do business with the government contractors. We're able to deploy Acumatica in a specific certified cloud environment and still access it via web browser.
We have another question.
Mm-hmm.
In a local on-prem deployment, how many hosts does Acumatica require, and are they Windows or Linux servers?
So it's everything's built on a Microsoft technology stack. So you would need a Windows server with IIS running, as well as SQL Server, and that can be on the same box or it can be separated. Acumatica really wants to give customers very quick access to data. So here are just some of the examples, and we'll take a look at these as well inside of Acumatica. But there's over 250 standard reports. There's a link on Acumatica's website where they provide that information. There's no code custom support, custom reports. So depending on the type of, there's actually 5 different reporting tools out of the box in Acumatica at this point. And they're not like programmer type reports. A technical user and even some advanced business users can go in and they can manipulate these reports or dashboards. And then we have a number of additional ISV solutions. So some of the ones I'm thinking about are like DataSelf, and DataSelf integrates with Tableau and brings that into your Acumatica dashboard. Power BI we mentioned earlier, Tangerine and Nectari. And then Velixo Reports is for the folks that really require an Excel-based reporting tool. Some of the ones that you may be familiar with are like BizNet or Spreadsheet Server, and these are Excel-based tools for financial statements specifically that query the database direct. And there's one in Acumatica that's very, very good. It's called Velixo Reports. You deploy it in about 5 minutes, and then it takes us maybe 2 hours to train somebody in, and they're building financial statements using Excel. It's a very, very powerful feature. As I mentioned earlier, you're going to be able to access Acumatica from anywhere on any device, and that even includes natural language search. So if we have more time today, I could show you how I could ask my Amazon Alexa a natural language question and actually return a result. So imagine if I'm a distributor and I wanted to know how many Acer computer laptops are in my wholesale warehouse, I could literally ask Amazon Alexa that question, and she would tell me how many Acer laptops are in the wholesale warehouse. That's all driven based off of Acumatica's platform and the Alexa skill that is readily available for anyone to deploy from Amazon, actually.
We have 2 new questions.
Great.
Number 1, has SWK done work with connecting Acumatica to a data mart?
I think is the question about a different data warehouse. I'm not familiar with Data Mart.
I will let them clarify, and while that is happening, I will jump to the second question. Does the standard set of reports support scheduling? For example, send this report every week or month to these recipients.
Great question. Yes, you can schedule those reports to go out in PDF or Excel format, and they can be sent through Acumatica. All that's just scheduled through the automation scheduling tool. So you're able to do that. You could even combine it and say, on this day of the month, combine these 3 reports as one PDF and send it to this group of people.
Okay, we have a clarification for the first question. So the question was, has SWK done work with connecting Acumatica to a data mart? This was created for us to pull data in from our current Dynamics CL product, we want to keep that data and then connect the same data fields from the Acumatica DB to the data mart for reporting.
Yes, yes. So it sounds to me kind of like a data warehouse situation, and we can certainly do that and map those fields so that you can do your reporting out of Data Mart or accessing the data out of Data Mart. Great. We already mentioned the public cloud versus the private cloud. Acumatica's SaaS offering is that public cloud option, includes the backups, the disaster recovery, the uptime that I mentioned, and the best of breed hosting. And then the private cloud is available, really based on preference or need. Sometimes if folks have already invested heavily, maybe they already have their own AWS infrastructure or they're in Azure and they're already paying for that. Well, you can deploy Acumatica there as well. One of the things that we'll never talk about in Acumatica is user-based licensing. So, in any of our discovery calls, as we're getting to know new customers, we'll never ask, or we might ask, but it's really just from a sizing perspective of the usage of the system, not really that we need to know it for licensing. And that's because Acumatica is licensed for unlimited users. Acumatica does not want to be a bottleneck. They don't want you to have to contact SWK or Acumatica every time you grow and you need to add 5 users. You just add the users as you need them. That's under your full control. It really flips the whole user-based licensing on its head because possibly before there were certain people that we kept out of the system because we didn't want to pay for licenses for them. But maybe they just need to go in and run that report or see that dashboard or access and update that one record. So we can give very fine user roles to those folks and allow them to come into the system and do what they need to, and no one's going to nickel and dime you in that scenario for user licensing. Acumatica licenses based on consumption. So what they do is they put you in a model where it's driven by commercial transactions. And we can dive into that in a lot more detail with y'all individually. But the idea is you pay for what you use. You're going to pay. You're only going to ever pay more for Acumatica if your business grows and your volume increases. So it's kind of like add the users and grow, and you're never going to have to pay anything extra until you see the benefits of that growth. Data ownership is kind of like data security. It's a hot topic these days as people are just getting more understanding of where their data sits and where that resides, data residency. And Acumatica allows you to make those decisions, right? If you're in AWS, your database is in AWS. But if you wanted your database to be on-premise or in a private cloud, those are certainly options that are up to you. Another really important question to ask as you evaluate different ERP systems is, what happens when I leave this system, right? In 10, 15, 20 years, what format am I going to get my data in? And in Acumatica, you get a full SQL database all throughout the lifespan of your system. You have access to your full SQL database. Certain SaaS solutions out there today, you get flat files, right? You're going to get spreadsheets when you leave. It's a very key differentiator that you're able to get your full database out of Acumatica. One of the most challenging parts of an implementation can often be training and how training is delivered. And Acumatica does a really good job of providing free training on their Acumatica Open University. So certainly we're still going to do user acceptance testing and training within the confines of a project, but it's really good even after going live for you to have somebody new come on board that hasn't used Acumatica before to have access to a lot of free training resources. Many of them are videos and courses that you can take, and there's no cost to be able to do this. Acumatica put out several years ago a customer bill of rights, and the intent here was to challenge the ERP industry to do business a little differently than they have in the past. This is something that you can just Google and you can access, or you can take a screenshot now. A couple of these that I'd like to highlight for you, though, is the consumption-based licensing, so not being user-based. Another one is that Acumatica will never increase the subscription more than 3% year over year. There's some other systems that they make a common practice of getting folks in the door in year 1, 2, and then year 3, your subscription is 50% higher, right? And at that point, you're stuck. So Acumatica commits to never increasing that more than 3% year over year. Accessing your data anytime, anywhere, and also getting the dual layers of support. These are just some of the ones I wanted to highlight, right? You've got Acumatica support, you've got your SWK reseller support, and we have a very competent help desk ourselves, about a 12-person help desk across all the products that we sell and implement. There were a lot of really exciting features in Acumatica 2020 R1 that were released. I'll mention a couple of them today in our demonstration. Acumatica has 2 releases every year. One of them is for, it's 2020 R1, 2020 R2. So it's the year and then R1 and R2. It's very easy to keep track of. One's earlier in the year, like March, April, and then another one is September, October. So that's the R1 and R2 releases. One of them is usually a large release, and it includes a lot of net new functionality. Another one is a smaller release, right? Some of the highlights from Acumatica 2020 R1 were usability, being able to capture images from a mobile device, being able to do custom workflows. There's a whole new workflow engine that's created that allows you to really take control of your own business process inside of Acumatica. Acumatica has made the technology stack even more robust, allowing you to do webhooks and customization projects, caching the dashboards, as well as a number of vertical specific highlights. One of the most exciting for me that I saw was the enhanced on the WMS side. Acumatica now released its own WMS. It's a very cost-effective for unlimited user warehouse management solution. And they just recently in 2020 R1 released wave picking and batch picking or cart picking. This is traditionally functionality that you maybe had to pay 6 figures for, right? To be able to implement a full WMS that could do this. And the WMS module is nowhere near that. We're also able to do manufacturing shop floor data collection. So issuing time and labor to work orders, right? Construction has seen a number of enhancements as well. DFRs or daily field reports, integrations with weather service providers and photo log capture capability. So I just mentioned a couple of the highlights there, but the release notes are available on help.acumatica.com. Pretty simple website to go to, help.acumatica.com. The release notes are somewhere between 150 and 300 pages, so don't expect you guys to go there and read them yourselves, but it just shows you the type of investment that is being made in this product in every single release, both vertical specific functionality and features, as well as technology enhancements like machine learning and applying that to data entry for AP or document capture. Things that used to be integrated solutions, Acumatica is really trying to bring into the core and allow you to have easier deployment on some of those features. So with that, we're going to go into our Acumatica product demonstration. Remember, today's just a quick overview. As I'm making my way over here, I just wanted to see if there were any questions.
Yes, we do have one more that's come in. Is the platform GDPR ready?
Great question. We've got some very good intelligent folks on the line today asking really good questions. Yeah, GDPR has gotten to be a very hot topic, and Acumatica, I believe, was the first system a couple of years ago to implement that as part of the core. So if I happen to go to the customer record, for example, there's now a place that you can actually say that the person gave you their consent to store their data, and a consent expires date. So that has been that's been available really since GDPR first came about. So I'm going to jump right into our demo. We had planned for about 15 to 20 minutes of demonstration today. Remember, guys, this is really think of this like a trailer. This is a teaser. This is a, hey, here's what it looks like, and here's what it can do from a high level. And then obviously the next step's getting in touch with your SWK representative, either somebody from our stat team or a consultant or salesperson that's going to help you really dig into the next level of details. And me and my team, when we do all the demos for Acumatica, we really like to get your own data. We like to ask you questions for a couple hours about your business process and show you something that's very tailored to how Acumatica is going to provide value for your business. So with that, let's jump in and we'll do our overview and give you a little taste of Acumatica. I'm going to log in here as my admin user. This is just a demo environment for Acumatica 2020 R1 that I have available. Acumatica, when I log in, I'm assigned a user role, and I'm actually logging in as admin, so I can see a lot of different things going on here, and that's because I'm in here as admin. The user controls and user security are defined by you. There's some basic roles that come with the system, but you're able to actually go in and identify roles down to at the workspace level, like you have access to the general ledger or not, all the way down to individual fields, like you can see the account number on the vendor ACH or not, right? So really all levels of control there. What is visually appealing to me when I log in is a dashboard. And these dashboards are very easy to be able to design. There's no queries to write or tables to join. There's a very simple dashboard widget designer that you're going to walk through to be able to create these different dashboards. So if I wanted to add a new one, I'd be able to identify what type of widget I was adding. You know, is it one of the scorecard KPI tiles? Is it a Power BI tile? Is it a data table? Right? What type of widget do I want? And then the next step is going to be to select where the data is coming from, the data set, also known as an inquiry screen or generic inquiry in Acumatica. So pretty easy wizard to be able to walk through. And what you're seeing here is just some really good examples of that. At a quick look, I can see my sales orders trending month over month, and I'm breaking that in by order type. So blue is my SO order type. I can drag and drop, like I can focus just on a couple of months here. These KPI tiles are also showing me important information that I've told Acumatica to present to me, even potentially with some different colors. So if I have 10 or more orders that are late, I want this to be red. If it's 5 to 9, it could be yellow. 4 or fewer, it could be green. Just an example of how these could be set up to really grab the user's eye when they log in. I like to say that anything that you're currently running a report for or needing to do Excel analysis for in order to then do your job is something that's great for us to put into Acumatica as a dashboard. So I'm just going to click on the 14 orders to ship here, and this takes me to what we would call an inquiry screen. And these inquiry screens are live, these are dynamic, and very feature rich. I can very easily export to Excel anywhere you see this little X. This is a screen that I use all the time. I can hit this little star and I could add this to my favorites and really build out my own favorites toolbar. And then down below, some things that might seem very simple, but in other ERP systems I've seen and used, it was like a customization programming thing, is just to redirect or reorient. One of our customers said to redecorate the screens, how that user wants to see it. So let's say I like to see the account ID over here. I can just drag and drop that, and I didn't change what anyone else saw. That's just how my user is going to see this screen now. All of these are filterable, so if I wanted to actually go in and filter by the order total, I'd be able to just double click on the header and then be able to sort and filter very easily by, you know, doing a contains or quantity ascending or descending, all those different types of rules. So really easy, quick ways to slice and dice the data. I could also build in different rules and tabs across the top based on how I want to see this information. So I could actually build another filter similar to how I have the late orders. I could put orders over 25,000 and I'd be able to see that right from a tab and either share it with others or keep it for myself. Now I have a lot going on my screen right now, so I'm going to pop in this sidebar of my modules or workspaces, and you're able to see that we actually have some conditional formatting applied, just like Excel. So this is showing me late orders. So if the order's late, and however I've determined that logic was up to me, I can have it actually identify that in red. Again, visually appealing, trying to grab my attention. Acumatica can be opened up in multiple tabs, just like I have now. So I could have it up on 2 screens if I'm a 2 or 3 screen person. And then even within a single screen, Acumatica tries to be very user friendly. For those of us that when we were able to travel a lot on the road, this is a great way when you're kind of hunched over doing some work on an airplane or a train to be able to look at one of those inquiry lists, but also have a little pop out to see the record that you're going to ship or what you're trying to review. All of this that I'm showing you right now is not in any way specific to sales orders. It's just how Acumatica works across all modules. So I'm actually, for the purpose of showing you that, going to go to a different dashboard here for my controller view. And this is now going to snap into place and gives you just an example of what a controller would see when they log into Acumatica. Now, if I was a controller, I probably wouldn't have my job today because my demo database tells me we're out of cash, but you can get the gist of just the different types of tiles that are showing in here. Like for a controller, they would want to see how many customers are on credit hold, right? I want to see that when I log in. I don't want to have to go run a report and see what those customers are and then start some sort of collections process. I should be able to just log in and Acumatica knows what I'm going to do in there. So you present me the information rather than me going to find it. And just like that, I was able to see it's our customer veracity credit consultants, and I could access their customer file right from that pop out and be able to call in or create an activity, stating what maybe I just called in to check in with them on that overdue AR balance. Okay. Couple other things that I want to highlight from a high level. Acumatica does support multiple tenants, companies, and branches. So tenants are totally separate businesses with maybe different base currencies. And then within, we can have related companies that have the same general chart of accounts, maybe same or different fiscal year ends and same base currency. And then branches underneath of that. So I actually have 3 companies. I have a capital company, a products company, and a services company, and then a couple of branches underneath my services and products businesses. Acumatica has a universal search. I liken this to Google, but for your own ERP system, because I can actually use this to navigate around the system. Let's say that I wanted to be able to get to my profit and loss report. I'd be able to start typing profit, and it shows me all the screens to which I have access that have profit in it. If I didn't have access to these financial statements, I could search profit all day and I wouldn't be able to see that. All right, back to the user-based security controls. I'd also be able to access any transactions and profiles. So I'm just going to start to type in actually let's go to ABC. I believe I've got a couple of customers in there for ABC. If I did, I'd be able to actually go in and search the transactions and master files and get to the customer record that way. Right. I can also search help topics in Acumatica. So one that I like to search sometimes is blanket for like a blanket purchase order. And if this is not something I do, but happens to be someone else's job, and I just need to be filling in for them today, I can search all the wikis inside of Acumatica to get to that information. And when you do get to a help file, it's a very consolidated, bite-sized piece of instruction. It's not going to take you through an 80-page PDF to learn how to do a blanket PO. Okay. So this, I can barely scroll down, and that's about it. So it would give me information and links for some additional information. You get to actually create your own wikis within Acumatica. So let's say that you've got your SOPs, I'm thinking like approval thresholds, capitalization policies out there on SharePoint or another drive somewhere. You can bring all of that right into Acumatica and have it live right next to the business processes that folks are trying to adhere to. Acumatica makes it very easy to attach files, and I'll show you that in just a moment. But from this universal search, the last area of search was the files, and this searches file names. So anywhere I've got PO in the file name. And one of the ways that I like to demonstrate this is actually going to a new bill and showing me from an invoice how easy I could just drag and drop a new invoice copy onto the bill in Acumatica. So what I could do is I could actually open up a bill. I'll just pick one that's closed here as an example. And I'm going to go ahead and drag and drop that bill right into the screen. So I happen to be working from one screen at the moment, but I could go in and I could actually grab something from my desktop once I get there. And I'd be able to very easily access Acumatica and grab something from my desktop and drag and drop it. So I'll tell you what I'll do is I'll actually just grab a file here this way. And this is let's just grab one this is an image I had. I can drag and drop that. And when I do that, right here, this files turns to 1. So really easy way that I could go through and just attach files. I can also create activities. And these files and activities are all flowing through the central vendor hub or customer master file, vendor master file, wherever you're at. And again, it's valid on field service work orders, expense receipts, on master files, right? These are consistent features that are available everywhere in Acumatica that really give you that modern ERP platform experience. Now, looking down the left, I have my workspaces. So these would be workspaces or modules. And Acumatica is going to help me get to the information I need most frequently versus all the screens. So just because I have access to the purchase orders module, I can see that if I was working from an iPad today, I'd be able to hit these big 4 buttons because these are the most frequent things that I do in purchase orders. And then down below, I have access to additional screens. But if I wanted to see all the screens, I could hit that show all. So very easily allows me to navigate around the system in a way that's specifically tailored for my user role, and not trying to be an obstacle in what I'm trying to accomplish in Acumatica, just allowing me to get my work done. Now, there's a lot more that we would love to cover in an overview demo about the additional reporting tools and what other modern ERP features are available. But hopefully this just gave you a little taste of what Acumatica looks like. It gives you a little bit more information about the platform and the user interface, and will help you have a little more background as you're continuing those conversations with, again, your SWK rep, either the stat person or whoever you're working with today. So with that, I'll go back to our PowerPoint slide deck, and we'll just see if there are any final questions. Want to make sure we stop and handle any other questions that came up today.
Thanks, Jeremy. So far, no questions have come in. We do have a compliment, good job from someone, so thank you. I would agree. They're looking forward to another demo, maybe showing projects. So thanks again for doing that. So let's see if any other questions might be coming in. Nothing yet. And just a reminder for everyone who's still on, we do have Jeremy with us. He's a subject matter expert. So now is a great time to ask questions. But as he mentioned, you will have the opportunity to dive a little bit deeper into Acumatica later on if you choose to with your SWK reps. Let's see here. Give it a couple more seconds. We had a lot of great questions throughout, so I'm not totally surprised you've answered all of them.
Great.
I think we're good. Well, thanks everyone for joining us. We do hope that you and your close ones stay safe and healthy, and we look forward to staying in touch with you. And like I said before, we will have an SWK representative reach out to you just to see if you have any more questions and determine next steps. So thank you for joining, and Jeremy, awesome job. Thank you as always.
Thanks, everybody. Look forward to talking to you guys soon.
Have a great rest of your day, everyone. Goodbye.